So there's four things that I'm looking for when it comes to the runners. Okay, and this came as a result of I was like taking a lot of plays that would get to like a daily resistance point or a daily support point, and then they would just keep on going. And so I kind of looked at the ones that I really did not hold long enough to see, okay, what is it about them that they all have in common? Okay. So the very first thing, was it a gap? So was there a gap? Was there potentially people trapped in it? Is there an event happening here? Okay, is it a gap strategy play? That's kind of the first thing. Okay, the next thing is the weekly changing. Is maybe it been going sideways and now the weekly is breaking down or potentially breaking out? Okay, or was it in an uptrend and now we're gapping against it? Okay, so is there something significant happening on the weekly time frame? Should longer term players also have business to be done in this? Okay, is there above average volume today? Does it seem like people care? And then is the stock showing relative strength, relative weakness to the market? Okay, these are the four things that I want to see. Now you have three out of the four. It's still pretty good. Doesn't mean that it doesn't have potential. Okay, now if you look at these four things and you say, well, isn't this just what you do in all, or what you're looking for in all of your plays? And my response would be, exactly. That is exactly what I'm looking for in a lot of my plays. So if the market's weak, right, and some of the time we see these high of the day bases on the intraday, right, on a gap down that we maybe want to short, right? Is it really showing relative weakness to the market if the market's in a downtrend, right? I'm not so sure, right? So really, right, this is pretty much what I'm looking for in every play. This is kind of where the focus is for me, right? As much as possible. That's why I don't play a lot of counters, trend stuff. I'm looking for stuff that I can hold all day. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at some examples here. Okay. And we'll look at some examples from today as well. This was the IRBT from a few months ago. All right. So when we come into an example like this, right? So first, is it a gap strategy play? Okay. And so, of course, we are gapping underneath this big base, right? Weekly trend change, we know that because look at the daily 20 MA pointing up. It's been grinding higher. Weekly was in an uptrend. Surely now, right? That weekly uptrend is being damaged. Are we getting above average volume today? Right? No question. And then is it showing relative weakness? Right? This was staying very weak. Market was actually a small gap up, right? But did eventually get sold throughout the day. Okay. So this is what I look for to hold all day. Now, not everything that satisfies all four criteria will go all day, right? And not everything, even things that satisfy two or only three, or maybe they're doing none of these things, will still have all day. These are the things that are more likely to go in an all day trend. Okay, we'll take a look at some of the ones from today as well, like K and B closed at the lows, right? We played that in the afternoon. SERV went all day. MCD went all day, right? These were all things that we were kind of looking for to ways to play, right? Because they are the ones most likely to give you a nice big move. Market, I'm sure, helped as well on some of the shorts this afternoon. Okay. So if you determine I'm going to try to hold this all day, there's some different ways that you can do it. Okay. You can manage on significant pivots. You can manage hourly bar by bar. You can just go to break even. Yeah. So, right, all of these like make sense as to why these things will have a lot of momentum. Why sellers will be persistent in this. Okay? Right? First, it's a gap strategy. People are caught People, and this is their chance to sell, right? And a lot of people who get stuck in this gap are going to think, oh, I'll wait for it to bounce. I'll wait for a bounce, maybe tomorrow. And after it's dropped $5 more from the open, they finally say, I don't know how far this thing is going to go. Just get me out. So that kind of gap, right, creates persistent selling. Weekly trend change, same thing, right? Long-term holders are thinking, boy, I got to get out. I'm going to get out. Maybe they got a bigger position. They only want to get out a little bit at a time as far as a portion of their position, right? Is there above average volume? Again, that's indicative of we're not dealing with just your daily scalpers in and out or market makers, that people from all times are really paying attention. Right. So if we can get traders trapped from larger time frames as well, right? That's just more selling that has to happen. Is the stock showing relative weakness, right? Meaning that, like, if the market was in an uptrend all day or staying strong and this thing is getting sold, this tells you that this selling is for real. It's going to happen in a sideways market, an uptrending market, and a downtrending market. So then if the market decides, like today, oh, I'm going to make a new high and then come in hard, all the shorts are going to get to target even faster. You're going to get even nicer move before the end of the day. So that's why, yeah, all of these to me make sense as to why I should be looking for them. Right? Why did I see these things in common? Why does it make sense? Okay. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot of them that you plan to hold all day, and they may not necessarily end up being all day hold. They may end up, you don't want to have to give back the whole thing. You don't just walk away or leave it at your original stop, right? You don't have to give back the whole thing. Some things bottom at lunch. Some things bottom late or early in the afternoon, right? So how can we manage them? Okay, these are kind of 3 ways that I'm suggesting to you if you're intending to hold them longer. Remaining position on significant pivots, hourly bar by bar, or just set it to break even and walk away. Okay, if you've already taken some, you're down to the runner piece. These are the ways that I think you could do them. Maybe you can come up with another way. I'm not sure. You could pick a 20 MA to trail off of. Something like that. These are the ones that I think make the most sense. The one that suits me the best is hourly bar by bar. Okay. Now we'll get into why that is. Okay. It's because if you're focused on pivots, it's very hard when you finally get the pivot, right, to stick with it and wait for it till it becomes significant. Imagine you played this buy setup here. Okay. You played this buy setup. You took some. Maybe you took most of it. Okay, either took half or 3/4, whatever. Because depending on, if something's up more than 2 hours, I usually take more than half. Okay, and then comes all the way back in, right? And your piece, the problem with the break-even trail is this actually is now below break-even, this pullback. Okay, now you're getting this pivot. What do you guys think? Good trail or not a good trail? Okay, your plan is, I'm going to hold the runner based on pivots. Franco says not good. All right. Now, why is this not a good trail? If you think it's not a good trail, Franco, why is that? You got the 20 MA curling up underneath. It's at an area of support, right? Just keep in mind, bingo. The title, significant. When does this become significant? When it gets to a new high, then you can trail underneath here. Franco's got it, okay? So this is not significant until it makes no high. You won't know that. And what I found actually, so I'm very, very impatient when it comes to these pivots. What I found was as soon as this green bar forms is when I want to use this as a pivot. What I found for other people who are just a little bit more patient than me, they'll see this pivot, they'll see the green bar, they'll be like, that's not a good trail. But if the next bar is a red bar, and it actually comes to retest this pivot, then they say, oh, okay, yeah, actually, let me use this trail. I thought everybody would be like me, and as soon as this forms, they just couldn't wait to put a trail in, right? I found other people actually They're a little bit more patient when this bar is green. If the next bar is red is when they say, uh-oh, okay, yeah, let me just use this trail because this red bar now is really intimidating. If the next bar is a red bar, okay? So now, where was this pivot that we pointed out? Right there. When does the pivot here become significant? When we make a new high. So you can imagine when you're coming in here and you want to trail and you're down to the runner, right? We're just down the last piece. You actually have to wait hours anyway until you get to use this pivot, right? And so that's the hard thing about using significant pivots. You don't know when the pivot's going to form, when it's coming in. You don't know when it's going to become significant as it continues to move up. So that is the hard thing about it. And actually, right, this is actually got another pivot right in here, right? That actually you can trail to there when this goes to make a new high, because actually this is your pullback. Okay. All right. So that is the challenge. Here's an example, right, of a short example, right? Let's say you're in this lows, another big gap down, staying weak, right? And you're in it maybe from this breakdown, okay? And then it gives you this pivot here, right? This pivot's not going to be significant until we make a new low, even though 20 EMA has caught up, right? So if you trail to there prematurely, okay, then you get out at the worst possible spot. That's going to happen sometimes no matter what. But if you're using, right, non-significant pivots, I found that to happen quite a bit. Goes up just by a little bit, you're out of it, and then you just spend the rest of the day crying how you're not in it anymore. And you picked the best one, you knew it was the best one, right? And you wanted to be in it all day. Now, if you cannot stick with it, if you just can't help stay in some of these, then go ahead, take the whole thing there. Okay? I don't have a problem with that. If you want to take the whole thing here, take the whole thing there. The worst thing you can do is say, yeah, I want to try to hold these things all day, and then fight yourself, and then end up, a lot of times you just get out at the worst spot, right? When you should have just got the whole thing here. Be done with it if you want to be done with it. Replay it if it sets up again. If you want to take that approach, that's completely fine, right? It's up to you how you want to do it. Because whatever fits you, right, is what you want to do. I had to find out that significant pivots is just too hard for me. I don't know. Maybe I could try it again, right? But I'm pretty comfortable with the approach that I have now. So if you want to, like if you're in this lows, just take the whole thing here when you get the multiple red bars in your favor. You don't have to like live through all of this. If you want to replay it when it breaks down like right here, because these are some nice kind of consolidation here off the 20 MA, you can replay it there. Okay? You don't have to do it this way if you don't want to. You can just either take it first thing, you get the move, be done. Or if you do want to try to hold all day, right, then go for it. You know, of course, the thing with re-entering that I found is challenging is when you already had a nice move and a nice play, especially if it's not that big, right? Sometimes it's hard to want to take it again because you're getting in at maybe a lower price, like, or you're shorting at a lower price. And of course, you run the risk of giving back your nice play. So psychologically, I just found it easier to try and stick with it if I'm already in it, especially if I think the entry that I took is really, really good, right? And I think it's very secure, okay? What I prefer, hourly bar by bar, 65-minute bar by bar, doesn't really matter which one you want to do. They're not that different. If you have your charts open, you can look at the SERV, you can look at the MCD, okay? These showed relative weakness right from the beginning. So if you played these and want to be in them all day, you can do 65-minute bar by bar. Then when the market came in hard, that only gave these a little bit more juice to move, okay? So that's why I like 60-minute bar by bar. You know exactly when it's going to finish. And therefore, right, I can say, okay, I only got to wait this much longer, and I have a trail of some kind. Now, it's not always going to be the best trail, right? Obviously, I'm giving you examples of what it looks like. And sometimes it starts to go against you right at the time that the new 60-minute bar is finishing. You got to wait another hour, and it's hard. So sometimes I do get out of stuff because I'm like, I'm going to have to wait forever for this next bar to finish. Reward to risk is really already, we're up a certain amount, whatever. I don't want to give the whole thing back. Okay, so that's the 60-minute bar by bar. So those are the things that I want to see. Okay, is these. Now also, when you're in the play, just one thing to keep in mind. Okay, you don't want it to go climactic. I know for a lot of us, it's hard to sit through consolidation, because what happens when we're in a play and it's working and it starts to base out? We think, oh, it's running out of steam, right? Or when we're in a play and it starts to retrace the other way, we think, oh, that was the bottom. We're now in trouble. But those things actually need to happen for it to continue, okay? So we do want to see retracements and consolidations, okay? So for instance, right, look at this SCRV. How many times did it have to go sideways, right? Even have to pull back like this, right? Some of you may have been in the TACO, right, today, and you may have seen these green bars, and every time this happened, you thought, oh, that's going to be the bottom. Oh, that's going to be the bottom. But that's what needs to happen, right, in order for it to go all day. Otherwise, you're going to get something like the G and W, right? When it goes like this, very nice, very rewarding if you're in it, okay? But typically, this is the kind of thing that's not going to continue because all the selling is getting done at once, right? This did kind of set up a base and then a little bit of continuation there near the lows, okay? Right? And so like on the KMB, right, got a little bit of ahead of itself and then needed to spend 2 hours basing before making the next move down. Okay, so you do actually, even though it's kind of painful to live through, you do want to see basing and sell setups, right, in your shorts in order to see them continue, because that keeps the trend healthy so that it doesn't overextend and doesn't end the trend too early. Now, if it goes climactic, wonderful. You can consider taking the whole thing, right? Yeah, so they make it harder, but it's actually what needs to happen in order for them to continue. So yeah, might have been a hard time. Now, interesting. Let's see what happened with the taco. Where would this? Let's say you did a hourly trail. Okay, hourly trail. If you did an hourly trail in the taco, then I think you would have trailed out over this red bar, which is not an easy trail. That's not an easy trail over 814. That's tough because it kind of goes from new lows and the next bar is a green bar. You know, that's what happened with us on the W day, which was fine, not a bad trade, but it went from making new lows to immediately kind of trailing the top of the next bar. So, yeah, that is going to happen. But yeah, that's just, it comes with the management style sometimes. It takes a little bit longer for it to finish there. So, but these plays end up being so beneficial, such big plays that it's hard not to. You know, especially, you know, I think some people don't really like to be patient with the play, and I understand that. It's a lot harder for me to re-enter a play, to commit new risk to a play, than it is to just protect the play that I'm in, trail up, or let it play out. So that's why I'd rather do this. Rather than, you know, play the MCD 2 or 3 times over and over again, right? It's easier for me to get in where I think is a really good entry, right? And then let it go from there. So that's for me personally. My approach to entries in general also is prove to me that now is the time. Prove to me that you really want to go. Prove to me that I should risk my money on it. Okay? As opposed to, right, the thought process that I had when I first started trading was that every time I came across something, a play, it could go. right? Ooh, this could go. Let's try it. As opposed to now, where it's prove to me that this is a really good opportunity, that this is worth the risk. Is it worth the risk? As opposed to, ooh, if it works, it could be great. And that used to be always the thought process. Just, oh, this could give me some reward. This could work, right? As opposed to, you know what, this is really good, worth the risk. I have to play this, whatever. Okay? Even now, probably sometimes should be a little bit more aggressive, right? But that to me was definitely a difference between novice thinking, approach to trading, right, versus seeking consistency. There's no real escape routes except it's up too much. I don't know how, the trail is too big, so I'm just going to take it. So there aren't really any escape routes except that I feel like there's too much money on the table. This is going to just be the target. Okay. What did we do? Oh, TSM was that way. TSM was that way because as we were reaching, I think 3Rs, and it was down here, I was like, this bar isn't even finished forming, and then I'm going to have to wait another hour, and then I'm going to get to trail to potentially 86. I don't think it makes sense to stick with it. So that in that case, it was just a matter of reward to risk. Now, how would I feel, of course, if the next bar is an even bigger red bar? I'll feel like, darn it, I should have held it. But yeah, there's no like escape plan really, except I just look at what is potentially going to be the trail. How much is on the table? Does it make sense? And plenty of times, yeah, it will just keep on going, and I could have just been more patient. But yeah, that's really that's when the call. You look at where the trail is, you look at what it's at, how much it's up, and are you willing to give that back? A lot of times I'm not willing to give that back when the bar is wide like that. So yeah, good question.